Hey everyone, welcome to my presentation all about everything email, which sounds a bit overwhelming. I'm just getting everything set up here on Demio. Hopefully everyone had an easy time getting in here. Hey Katie, shout out to Katie from M&I Industry Select. Thank you so much for letting me talk about something I'm so passionate about talking about, which is email. So yeah, thanks again, Katie. And I know we have some people on here, but I'm just going to wait a little bit to let people come on here. Where's everyone at? I am originally a Chicagoan, born and raised, and I just recently moved to Lewisburg, West Virginia, which is a small town in West Virginia. For those of you who haven't visited here, I highly recommend coming to West Virginia. It's a beautiful state. I've loved it so much so far. Awesome, Karen. Piney Woods of East Texas. That sounds amazing. Amazing. Hopefully I can speak better once we're going through it. And then James, Bentonville, Arkansas. Katie, Central Wisconsin. Can't wait to visit West Virginia. Yeah, definitely come down. This has become one of my favorite states. So much hiking outdoors if people are into that. Anger, North Carolina. Rachel is from. Cool. So, yeah, well, thank you so much for joining me today. I don't have a super long session. I just wanted to go over some really important things when it comes to emailing and how to get results with email because there's this huge argument out there that cold emailing is dead, but it definitely isn't. And that's what I'm here to talk with you a little bit about today. But before we get into it, I want to go over some ground rules here and then also introduce myself to what makes me credible to talk about cold emailing. Um, awesome. And let me just see some other people. Karen, West Virginia sounds like a great place for my pack and my camper van. Totally. There's so many great places to hike and camp here. Whitney, we have from Texas, Deanne from Philly. Rachel's not able to hear, so you have to log back and come back in. Okay. Everyone else is able to hear me though, correct? Just want to make sure. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, if you just want to log in and back out. So first, let me introduce myself a little bit. My name is Maggie Blume. I'm the sales evangelist at a company called Mailshake. Mailshake is an email automation sales engagement platform. So we don't just talk about email all day, but we talk about other multi-channels, to reach out to people for prospecting. So a lot of the conversation that we'll talk about today with cold emailing is about those lead generation emails. So similar to email marketing, but there are some differences. So it's when you're really trying to start a conversation from the sales side of things. But what makes me credible to talk about cold email? I have been in sales since 2018, and every single day I've been sending cold emails, reviewing cold emails, getting feedback from cold emails. So I've spent a lot of time writing, reviewing, and even looking at our customers' emails too. So I do copywriting, I give advice, but today I'm here to talk to you a little bit about that cold emailing isn't dead. And there's really great ways to do it, but there's some really bad ways to do it too. So we'll go over a few examples of, what not to do or what to also do. But without further ado, let me share my screen here. Just give me a second. It always takes me just a second to make sure I'm sharing the right tab and everything like that. But cool. Sweet. That should be able to see everything there. Cool. So thank you again for M&I for allowing me to come on this M&I University week, or excuse me, month. And I'm just super thankful to be here to be talking about something that I love to talk about too. If you have any questions during this, which I love questions about this, please feel free to put that in the ask a question box and then we can ask them there. You can also do it in the chat if you want to as well. I can always take a look at that there too. Whatever is easiest. And if I don't get through questions during it, we'll take a look at it at the end too. But cool, the agenda for today, I just want to get a cold email pulse check from everyone. So if you've done it before, some statistics that you might have gotten from it, and then we'll talk a little bit about the journey of writing a cold email. And then we can talk a little bit about what the heck deliverability is and why it's important. And then we'll go through a quick Q&A at the end. So any questions that you put in there. But first, I put in a poll in the chat there, and I see some answers have already come in. But feel free to answer in there. I have two people that voted. Have you done cold email before? So you have the answers there. Yes, no, a little. What is cold email? It should be a poll that pops up for everyone in there, or if you go over to the polls tab. Awesome. Cool. I see some answers coming in here. So it looks like a mix, half yes, half no. Some answered a little in there. That's okay. I just wanted to get an idea of how I can gauge this conversation today. And then we'll go to the next question. This would be for some of the people who have done cold email. What's your cold email open rate? So I'll push that in there now. I'll share it so you can answer either one of those there. So these are for the people who have done cold email before. What has your open rate been? Okay, not sure. We got a couple people from the 1 to 20%. Okay, awesome. Thanks so much for participating there. Yeah, I just wanted to get an idea of where we're all at with cold email and if we've done it before, so we can go in this conversation. I can go in this conversation a little bit more well versed with what you all know or might not know, which I didn't know a lot about cold email before joining sales, and I didn't know as much as I know today without joining Mailshake too. Cool. So why am I talking about these statistics? I just want to go over some pulse checks here of average cold email engagement. So the averages here is anywhere between like 22.5 to 53% open rate is the average. Anything over 53% would be amazing. And then anything lower than 20%, it could mean that you're ending up in spam. So I just want to put those numbers out there. I know some people have voted 1 to 20%. Again, it could mean that, and that's why I definitely want to talk with everyone today, because that's, why I give these webinars and talk with our customers about this is avoiding the spam folder, because we want to make sure we're getting in the inbox and getting some results there. But yeah, so great. And then as far as some other metrics that we didn't really touch on in the voting, just because I wanted to see what people had, but click rates anywhere on the average of it is 2 to 5%, and then anything over 5% is great. And then conversions, an average would be 15.11% conversion rate. So how many people have converted to starting a conversation with you from that cold email? Doesn't necessarily mean that they go all the way through your selling process and buy, but that they've converted from that cold email and they showed interest in there. Cool. So great. And I get this a lot. So is email prospecting or cold email dead? A lot of people want to make that argument nowadays that it definitely is dead. It didn't work for me. I've heard that, or we've tried it and we only got a few results from it. And that happens. And trust me, there was a time where I did cold email and I did it really horribly when I first started because I had no training. I had no metrics of what would help me out there. But the truth of it is it's not dead. And a lot of the times when I talk with people that think it is dead or that doesn't work for them, it's because they're using maybe the wrong messaging, the wrong tactics. They're not focusing on deliverability at all things that we'll cover today. But it is very well alive. And this is just a quote, that I found out there. A percentage that email marketing has a 2 times higher ROI than cold calling. Again, cold calling isn't dead. I think it's always the mixture. You should be doing cold calling, cold emailing. But look at that, it's 2 times higher ROI. And you even want to think of those, just email itself and how it's evolved. I mean, email has been around for quite a while, and it's still such an important method of communication. If you notice, like even your company, you may have like Microsoft Teams, you might have messaging like Slack out there that you use to communicate with each other. But we all still send emails, even to our coworkers about important things. And we still have to be in our email inbox to function throughout the day. So email and cold email is definitely not dead. It's just the ways of going about it. And that's what I'll talk to you a little bit about today. So I want to talk about the journey with writing cold email because it can seem like a daunting task. I remember when I was first a sales rep and people were asking me to write cold email, and I said, "Hey, I got like a D in English. I am not really that great at writing. So how am I supposed to do this?" And the fact of the matter is, we're salespeople. We know how to sell something. We know how to talk with people on the phones. We know how to give a demo. We know how to get in those closing conversations. So how can we translate that all back to piquing someone's interest with a cold email? So if I can do it, anyone on this call can write a cold email out there for those of you who haven't. But the first thing that you want to focus on when writing cold email is the person. I like to call it, because obviously you're going to write a cold email. Who are you writing it for? And that's why I'm super excited that I'm on this. And M&I Industry Select, we've paired up in the past to have webinars about this, and I'm sure Katie has the records and archives of it. But M&I Industry Select, that's a great place to grab, really great contact data, to get that really credible data. And that's the first place that you want to start. So think about, who's your ICP? Who are people that you can go after that would benefit from your product or service? So first start with the who before you even think about any of the messaging that you want to do with cold email. So target a credible list of people. That's where you can go to Industry Select, and they have great categories for you to search from. But just because you do get all that data and it's a great place to do it, that's where you just want to pump the brakes a little bit of getting excited there. You want to group up personas. So I want to think about the person I'm writing to. They might be in different locations. You all named from where you're from today. They might be different titles. So they might be like property managers, facility managers, engineering managers, you know, whatever at that place. So you want to make sure that you have that in line too. But basically group up those different personas differently. So if I'm going to write an email, I want to really narrow it down to, I'm writing to property managers of facilities with 50 or less people in the Chicagoland area. So that's one group persona there. And with that one group of persona, are those peoples in it, that one group of people in there, I want to write an email directly to them. And all the other people we'll worry about at our next time writing a cold email. So if the next group I was talking to is from Philly and it was over 100 people working at that facility, and the title I was going after was facility managers, that's going to be a different email. So let's focus on that one group. Chicagoland area, 50 or less people at that company, and I'm reaching out to the property manager, let's say. So that's one specific person. So we might be reaching out to a whole group, but I'm thinking about that one person, that one property manager that's on location in Chicago. And I want to focus on that one person when I'm writing the email. So pick someone from your list, pick like an exact person on that list, and write an email to them. Now, of course, don't send that off to everyone, but let that be the basis when you're writing these cold emails. You want to make it seem that personalized, that you're just opening up your email inbox and sending a one-off email over to them. And then, of course, you can use automation tools like Mailshake to personalize that a little bit more. But that comes from writing in the second person too. So pick that one person, that person in the Chicagoland area, that property manager that you can write out to, but have that in mind. And that is the best start to writing a great cold email, because we've all gotten emails out there. I'm sure people have gotten that, where you feel like you're on a list. I've gotten emails where it says, "Hey there, I know you're in sales. Maybe try this out here, hoping that you can take a look at this specific link here." And it doesn't feel personalized. And when it doesn't feel personalized to me, I'm not going to respond to that email. I read every email because I'm kind of an email freak, but a lot of people won't even take the time to read after hi, and that doesn't even have that person's name in there. So make sure you're personalizing. You can do that with tools like Mailshake, but you're really thinking about that one person. What problem can you solve to them? How can you write an email to them? But yeah, so I talked a little bit or a lot of bit about the person in there, but that's really the first place that you want to focus on. If anyone has any questions, feel free to just add them in there or chat any questions in there too. But cool. So I want to give an example of, what I was talking about, of maybe like a bad email. And this is an example. This isn't something I grabbed off the internet. It's not something that someone sent over to me. And it is really far on the extreme side of just not a great email. So we'll read through it. Hey, just following up as you didn't reply to my last three messages. You might want to take a look again at what the company of the sender offers. And then this is kind of humor, but a full copy of the initial email that the person has sent me, which has 3 paragraphs long and which I've already read and decided I wasn't interested in. Please reply as soon as possible. So we've probably all gotten emails, not this extreme, but something along this lines of where someone's like bothering us, or I feel bothered reading it, like, hey, just following up because you didn't reply. Like, why did I have to reply? And then they say, here, please reply as soon as possible. And nothing in here is personalized. This doesn't speak to me in any way that this person took the time to take a look at what I do and write a personalized email over to me. They didn't even put my name in there. So this is just a red flag for me all along. And yeah, don't imply that your message is the most important task on their list for that day, because it definitely isn't. And that's where cold email has to be really strategic, has to be creative, and has to be really, something that almost like twists the knife with their pain that you're sending over to them. So we have to keep that in mind when we're writing cold email. And a great place to start out, if you haven't done cold email, is look at your own email inbox. What kind of cold emails grab your attention and what don't? What are ones that you totally trash there? And so take examples of the good emails that you see in there and see why did that make you respond? Why did that spark interest with you? And use some of those practices, because obviously your messaging is going to be different than the company that reached out to you, but that's a good practice of, hey, that caught my attention. Let's think to it as why did that catch my attention? Awesome. So this is an extreme bad example. Davey said just following up is my favorite. And yeah, Katie, I can totally see skipping Uber personalization if they can just personalize based on my persona. That is such a great point, Katie. So if you narrow down your list of people, like let's say again, property managers, Chicagoland area, 50 or less companies, or 50 or less people at the company, that's where you don't have to put a ton of personalization in. But all those property managers probably have similar pains that you can solve for them and that you can talk about. So it doesn't have to be like, hey, let's put their company name. Let's put what college they went to. Let's put, I don't know, the last company they worked at. You don't have to put in all those mail merge in there if you really focus on the group as a whole, and you narrow it down on the persona. Great point, Katie. Cool. So let's go to the next thing here. So this is where I want to talk a little bit about frameworks that people can use to write better cold emails. And we'll take a look at some examples after this too as we go through it. So let's focus on the frameworks. One I absolutely love and works super, super well for me and my customers is the 111 rule. So we just saw that email there that says just following up, just reiterating what I said in my last 3 emails or anything like that. That's where the 111 rule comes in handy, because what research says is it doesn't just take one email to get someone to respond to you. We'll talk about follow-ups a little bit after this. It takes a series of emails. It takes 5 to 7 emails to get someone to actually respond to that email or spark that interest in there. And so that's where the 111 rule is really important. We don't want to just finish with one email, seeing if they read it and will respond to it, because people get busy. I know I've read emails that really speak to me, but I can't respond to it because I'm about to get in my car and I read it on my phone or anything along those lines. So what the 111 rule does is it avoids that just following up candor or, hey, did you get my last email? It says for every single email that you write, focus on one pain or problem that you can solve for that person and one call to action. So one ask that you have in there to keep things focused too. So the one pain or problem, that's super important. And I always like to call it, it's like you're not playing all your cards. Like in chess, you can't play all your moves because then the other player would know how to really prepare for it. And so with cold email, you want the same thing. I don't want to give all my cards or all of what Mailshake can do in the first cold email that I send over to someone. First, I'm playing all my cards in there. I don't have any other things to follow up with after that. And then the second thing is, it might be overwhelming And there's three core things for Mailshake that we help customers solve or sales managers solve or people who are doing cold outreach. We save them time because we can automate those follow-ups that I was talking about. We get customers really good deliverability. So we want to make sure that people are actually reading emails. And then we help with confidence in cold email. I teach customers all the time how to write better cold emails. So the education part of it, because anyone can sell a software, but we actually help them with that. So I digress. Those are three different pains that I can talk about. And the mistake that I see people make is that they talk about it all in the first email, but really you want to split it up. So for every single email, the first I'm talking about deliverability. The second, I'm talking about how I can save them time. And then the third, I'm talking about how I can educate them with cold email. So you want to make sure that you're just focusing on one idea for that email and you have one call to action, you have one ask from them of what do you want them to do next. So that whole email is simple, focused, ready to go. When it hits their inbox, they're reading it and they're like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, I can respond to it right away. I know what Maggie wants me to do next. Because you have about 11 seconds with a cold email. The average someone spends reading a single email is 11 seconds. So keep that in the back of your mind when you're reading or rereading the emails that you write, that put a timer on your phone of when you start reading it to 10 seconds later and see if they were even able to grasp a part of it. Because I know we're all into skimming there too. But cool. So yeah, that's the 111 rule, but I see some questions in here and Katie's talking a little bit and Dave. So Katie said, I used to be big on just following up or just wanted to get back on the top of your inbox until I learned how cringy it is. Yeah, Katie, Dave, we've all done it before, but there's so many ways to do it. So that 111 rule is something that you can have in there that's going to give you a better opportunity to talk about different things and different steps of the process. And Katie, is there a magic time frame in between emails? Absolutely, there is. My recommendation is you want to, between the first and second email that you send someone, that can be about 1 or 2 days apart. So that one could be like a quick follow up in there, not saying just following up, but that could be a quick turnaround there. Any email after that, you want to make sure there's at least 5 days in between each email that you're sending out so that you're not pissing anyone off. You're not following up too quickly there. So definitely 5 days. And then if you want to do more than that, I see people getting great results with 8 to 10 days in between emails later on in a sequence. So if they're doing like their sixth or seventh in there. Great question. Awesome. So yeah, we talked about the 111 rule, one email, one pain that you solve, one call to action. And then the framework of an email is in that single email. I know we talked about the pain. The structure of it is you should talk about something that's relevant for the persona that you're reaching out to. How you can solve it would be the next thing. And then again, that ask in there. So it's just reiterating how that pain gets in there, how you have that relevance in there too. And then case study or testimonials. So that's always a great thing to add in emails or to use in frameworks is I hear a lot of people in emails that say like, we helped so-and-so get great results. So we think we can do the same for you. And in actuality, that's great. I'm glad that you've helped other people, but put some numbers to it. Like, how did you help that person? Did you give them 20% more revenue? Or did you save them 7 hours a week? So put some numbers in there. Don't just say, hey, we help people get great results. We helped people with their ROI by 20%, or we helped boost it, year over year. I'm adding all this jargon in there, but you get the point. And yeah, numbers never lie. That's great. Karen, to put in there. And I'll give an example of what I mean by that in the next slide. But so Dave, just to clarify, are you saying to use one of those frameworks per email, but then change them up throughout the sequence? So I'm just saying the 111 rule is you want to have a different pain for each email that you talk about, since your company may solve like 3 or 4 pains, or they have 3 to 4 benefits that you can offer someone. But the structure, that's the structure overall of a sequence. And then the structure of an email should be that you start with relevance, a way that you can solve that problem with statistics or number in there, and then an ask at the end of it. And no, I don't think you missed that part. I think I didn't do a good job clarifying it before, so I'm glad you asked that question, Dave. That helped me out, just to make sure I clarified it for everyone else. And we'll go through some examples to kind of let it all settle in there. But I talked about the ask and the 111 rule. Only use one ask in the email. So I see this mistake happening all the time that, you know, for every single email there, they have like, hey, click on my link to book a call, or, reply back to the email, or follow this link. That's three different things that you want the lead to do. You don't want to overwhelm them with three different things that they have to do. Just focus on one thing. And I always say the best thing that you can have someone do in an email is an interest-based ask. So you talk a little bit about, how you can solve their problems, things like that. And then you ask, hey, would this be worth exploring? Are you interested? So it's super easy for them in that 10 to 11 seconds when they're reading an email to just reply and say yes or no. And getting a no is not a bad thing. So have it be interest based, or offer them a free resource. And that can sound something like, hey, I did this case study with a group of people that I saved them 20%. Would you be interested in reading it? Again, it's still interest based, but you're giving them something for free. And if they say, yeah, I'd be interested in reading it, then you'd send them something over. But only have one ask in the email, have it be interest based, and we'll take a look at what that looks like there. Katie, yeah, for clarifying, for every one email, there's one pain that you solve and one call to action. But cool. So here's a before and after in here. So we'll talk a little bit about this, and we'll read the first one in here. Hey, Nathan, quick question. How long has it been since you compared your current mobile data plan? The vast majority of people who haven't compared their plan in 24 months are overpaying anywhere from 50 to 150 on data every single month. Ever get the feeling you're missing out? ABC Company is now providing data plans designed to save you up to 60% on your mobile tablet devices. Nathan, I'm not sure if this is something you'd be interested in, but you're eligible. If consolidating providers, saving on your bill, or just finding out if you're overpaying sounds interesting, why not learn more? So I even need to take a breather after reading that email, and I've read that email a few times before getting on this call today. It's a bit long, and there's a few different ideas in here. So it's asking me about three different questions. How long has it been since you compared your current mobile data plan? Ever get the feeling that you're missing out? Do you want to find out if you're overpaying, or does this sound interesting to you? It's a lot going on. And there's also different statistics in here, like you're overpaying 50 to 150. You could save up to 60%. So there's a lot of those different benefits, pains that they're talking about in there in just one email. And that's where we talked about that can get overwhelming and become a mouthful when you're reading it here. So I want to go over the rewrite in here. Hi, Nathan. How do you know you're not overpaying 50 to 100 for data month over month? A and B reduced their data costs by 60% compared to the FCC benchmark without compromising utilization. It involves a mobile virtual network operator. Worth exploring in Q1, Q2. So look at the difference there. They're kind of hitting a pain there right in the beginning. How do you know you're not overpaying? So it's this question I'm getting asked, and it's relevant to them because this person knows that they probably most likely are overpaying for something like that. And then they're giving exact examples. So that's where those testimonials or case studies from other customers you've worked with work really well. A and B reduced their data costs by 60%. So it's talking about people they've already worked with, and it's talking about that number in there. So it's not just, hey, we helped them save on their data costs. We helped them save by 60%. And then they just have a simple, straightforward, interest-based call to action. Worth exploring in Q1, Q2. And why that's important to have a really, really clear difference between, why it's important to have a really clear call to action is because it's going back to that 10 to 11 seconds that we have someone reading that email. If they're just glancing at it, they're skipping to the end of the email and they're thinking to themselves, what does this person want me to do? What do they want me to do? What's the next step? I do it myself, and think about it the next time you read an email too. Is I skim and I'm like, okay, what do they want me to do? And they want me to book a call. I don't have 15 minutes. And sometimes that's the only shot that you have is something they skim to. And so if we take a look at version A versus version B here, that call to action in version A is just not that clear and it takes me a while to read it. Nathan, I'm not sure if this is something you'd be interested in, but you're eligible. If consolidating providers, saving on your bill, or just finding out if you're overpaying sounds interesting, then why not learn more? It's not really clear either. It's like, okay, I can answer that to myself, like, yeah, why not learn more? I can Google it. But this right here is so clear, so straightforward that I can just respond right away, like, yeah, that sounds interesting. And it opens up that conversation from there. So that's just a good example, bad example rewritten to that good example there. And then we have some things in here. So yeah, that second one is fired compared to the first one would guarantee the response rate was significantly higher. Absolutely. Karen, plus it doesn't show much confidence in the product. Not sure if this is something you'd be interested in. Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that. It's not confident in the email. It's hey, not sure if this would be something you want to take a look at. And that whole not sure thing, it's like, not sure. If they're not sure, then I'm not sure. And I don't want to join a call if they're not sure. So it definitely goes back to that. Katie, I hate when I am made to feel bad for not answering an email. Yeah, that too. And giving someone a good out, like worth exploring, that is a great opportunity for you to just say no in there. So you can totally do that. Dave, I see your question about signatures. I want to get to that more towards the end when we go through Q&A, but great question. I'd be happy to answer it. Cool. Next example here of just oh, Karen, can you elaborate more on the CTA in the second email? So maybe we could talk about this a little bit more of what you mean by that. But yeah, like worth exploring in Q1 or Q2. It's just so they have a yes or no in there. Click a link. Got it. No, it should really just be a response, Karen. And we'll talk about links when it comes to deliverability. But when you're writing cold email, you want to make sure you're using as little to no clicks as possible. And we'll talk about that a little bit. And I say adding a calendar link in there, there's big debate around it. But having a calendar link in there is sometimes a bit too forward for some people. So it's the first time they're ever seeing your company or an email from you. And they think, should I really click on a link? It should just be a yes or no in there. And then you send the link right after. But got it. And then Katie, a question is a CTA. Yeah, a question in there could be a CTA, so a call to action. What should they do next? And so that question right in there, the next thing they can do is just reply back to that email. Cool. And so I want to go over an example. This is something that we use that I get about a 20% reply rate with, so 20% conversion rate with, and it's going off of a case study. So what I do in the beginning is I add a personalized line for every single person I'm reaching out with. So I'll say like, hey, Maggie, congrats on becoming the new sales manager at XYZ company. I'm sure that you're probably getting reached out to a lot by data tools or, sales tools out there. But I'll say something like, hey, we published an interview with a Mailshake user and cold email consultant who regularly sees a minimum of 60% open rate and meeting booked rate of over 10%. So that's catching someone's attention right there. 60% open rates, meeting booked rate of 10%. And I say he shared 8 lessons he's learned after 4 years and 140,000 cold emails sent. Reply back if you're interested in checking it out and I'll send it along. So this one is solely based off a case study, and I'm like shouting out this customer and the results that they've gotten. And I have that quick CTA in there of reply back if you're interested in checking it out. I'm not asking them for anything. I'm just giving them something for free in there. And they can take the time to read that case study. And when I send over the case study is really where I talk a little bit more about, hey, this is how we can help you get the same results that, this agency did or a cold email consultant did. This is how we can get you 60% open rate. Uh, so Kieran, talk about using the right bait. Yeah, exactly. Consider using this for my reply back. I want that case study. I can totally send that case study over and we'll have some free resources for everyone on here about cold email after this too. But yeah, that's just the differences there. So really think about this cold email. It's the first impression that you're sending over to someone. So give them something for free if you can, or just ask if it's something that is worth exploring or something that they're interested in. Cool. And then the last thing I really want to touch on here, so we went over some examples of good and bad in there, of what is deliverability. So we hear this word tossed around a little bit, but I really want to go over just a few quick tips in here of why someone should care about it. Basically, deliverability is all the behind the scenes things of getting in the inbox. So we talked about writing a good email, the basis of what's going to get someone interested, what's going to get them to respond to something. Deliverability is all about landing in the inbox because we know sometimes just our regular emails can go to spam. Like if you accidentally put a spammy word in there, if you put a video, anything like that. So deliverability means getting in the inbox, which that is so important. That's why I always have this in here is if you're getting bad deliverability, meaning not getting in the inbox, you're most likely going to spam. That means that no one's opening your emails. And that means you're not even getting results there. So that means all that work we did with copywriting, getting a list, everything we just talked about was all for nothing because we had bad deliverability. And that this is a subject I totally nerd out about, but I'm just going to go over a few things for you today. And if anyone has questions afterwards, we can dive into it. But to get good deliverability and to make sure that you're getting the inbox is that first email you send over to someone is your first impression. So basically, there's a lot of spammers that have ruined emailing for us in general, just one-off emails where they send lots of links, they send images for you to download, things like that. You've probably seen them in your junk folder for everything free, like free diet pills, free, I don't know, free vacations, free whatever that you've just won, something that you've won. So that's kind of ruined things. And servers, your email servers, uh, they automatically just filter those things into your spam folder because they want to keep you safe, which I totally recommend that. But what that means as a sender is you want to make sure that nothing you send over to someone could in any way be picked up as the same thing spammers send to people. So avoid using the words free. Avoid using lots of links or images. So that goes back to the point, Karen, of making sure that you're getting a reply from the email, not really sending over a link to someone, especially in the first email. In the first email, it's like your first impression. It's the first time that server's getting an email from you. And that's where they'll either put you in the inbox where you're in the clear, or they'll put you in a spam folder. So any type of follow-up you do with them, guess what? It's going right in their spam folder too. So make sure that in the first email, you're not using any links or images. You're using plain text, and that's going back. This is a plain text email right here. So there's no formatting or funky colors or anything like that. So yeah, avoid links, images, use plain text emails, and then make sure you have your DNS records set up. And for those of you who don't know what DNS records are, you can always contact me after this. It's basically your driver's license for getting in the inbox. It's a setting you put up on your email domain. There's an easy way to check it on a tool called MX Toolbox where you can just look up your domain, see if you have DNS records set up. But if you don't, it's like driving a car without a driver's license. You can send emails to whoever you want, just like you can drive anywhere you want. But if you get pulled over by the cops and you don't have a driver's license, you're going to be in big trouble. Just like if you send an email over without DNS records or DMARC set up, you could end up in someone's spam folder without that. And Katie, yeah, good question. DMARC is just a subset of one of the things involved with DNS. And I'm going to send over a guide about cold email after this that will explain that in more detail because it can get kind of nerdy on some of these, but uh, it's a part of DNS records and that's part of something that you set up on your own domain. Along with SPF, DKIM, and all of these are crazy acronyms that I didn't even know before starting at Mailshake. So I'll make sure to send that over to everyone afterwards. Awesome. Last thing I just want to talk about before we can dive into some in-depth Q&A, but we talked about this a little bit, is don't forget to follow up. And that's where, you know, I preach a lot about. That's the reason why I work at Mailshake. You can set up follow-up, automated follow-ups with Mailshake all in one go, so you can kind of set it and forget it. But it really just doesn't take one email to get someone to respond. We talked about it before. It takes about 5 to 7. And I just have even some statistics about it here is that 48% of salespeople never make an effort to follow up or an attempt to follow up there. 48%. So that's almost half of salespeople just send one cold email over to someone, hope that they respond, and then never follow up. It's, I mean, we just talked about that scenario earlier. What if I read that email and I was about to hop in my car, but it was really relevant to me? That's a wasted chance of just sending one email over to someone. Because this other statistic is saying that a campaign with even one follow-up, so just one, converts 22% more prospects. So just having one follow-up in there. And if you have more follow-ups, that's just going to increase your chances even more from there too. So be that 50% or over 50% that actually does take the time to follow up, because you're going to get 22% more results from it too, even with just doing it one time. So yeah, as kind of a recap of what we talked about here, make sure that you're targeting the right persona. The messaging there is following some of those frameworks that I talked about. So making it very clear, straightforward, caring about deliverability, which I'm going to send over an article about, and then making sure that you're following up there. Awesome. And that's a free resource that I'll send over to everyone today, is the Cold Email Academy. And actually not today, but before the end of this week, just because I want to get this recording and an email over to you too. But the Cold Email Academy basically goes through the ins and outs of deliverability. So it talks about the nerdy thing that I talked about, like DMARC and DNS records, but then it also has some great examples of subject lines, call to actions, and frameworks that I've used for cold email. So I'll send that over to everyone afterwards. Awesome. So we went through a lot, and I want to stop sharing my screen here just to open this up to some questions in here. Deanne, I'm glad that that was super valuable for you. Awesome. And I'm just looking over here, but I'll go back to Dave had a question in here. So my email signature includes schedule a meeting link. Would you consider removing that from a cold email sequence to stay aligned with that one CTA? Absolutely, Dave. And for the other reason, for deliverability, uh, having an email in or having a link in an email can mess around with deliverability. So we just want to make sure that it's all plain text is what I preach in it, especially with the very first email that you send over. So if you want to test out putting a calendar link in there and your signature, wait till the second or third email. But in the first one, I definitely wouldn't recommend putting it in there. Great question, though. Maggie always brings the details. I need to heat up my replies. Yeah, I mean, the core focus with cold email is you want to optimize for replies. It's the most reliable source of data. Link clicks can sometimes be a bit skewed depending on servers and things like that. And replies is you can actually see a person reply there. And the best thing about replies is you know why someone may not want what you're offering, or you may know why they didn't weren't interested at that time. So it gives you so much valuable information with a response. It might just be a simple yes or no, which is fine. But some people go into more detail of why they responded yes to the email or why they responded no. So that's why I always think replies is the best thing and the best call to action to have in emails too. Great. So I'll stay on here for a couple more minutes, see if there's any questions, but it was great chatting with you all today. For those of you who haven't done cold email, you can always reach out to me. I'm going to link my LinkedIn in here. I post a lot of content about cold email, and I'd be happy to help with anything. Again, I totally nerd out on these things. So the more questions, the better. I love talking about it. Whitney, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Whitney and Karen. I'm glad you learned a lot. You had some great questions in there. And Katie, I'm just seeing some of this information you said. Oh my gosh, I go to my junk folder daily and I have an average of 36 spam emails. Yeah, and about a dozen of them I was expecting. Yeah, totally can happen that way. Awesome. Yeah, you can even send me your emails. So if anyone wants to get one of their emails reviewed, I'm actually starting a series with my coworker Jed. He is the head of outbound here at Mailshake. Every Tuesday on LinkedIn Live, we're going to be doing a live teardown of an email sequence or even cold calling script, LinkedIn outreach. And if you want to get, it's not full tear down, but if you want to get some feedback on any of your emails, send me an email and we can review it on that LinkedIn Live and you'll get the recording. Yeah, that should be a better word for it, a glow up. Basically, we're going to be giving you an email glow up. Say again your LinkedIn Live. It's called Tuesday Teardowns. I will, I can, that could be something I send in the email over to you afterwards, Karen. So I'll create an email today with the recording of this session, with the Cold Email Academy, and then a link for our teardowns too. So you'll have it in your email inbox. Dave, you're right. Yeah, just following up here afterwards. But no, it was super great talking with you all today. I am so happy that M&I Industry Select gave me the opportunity to talk today. And I hope you all have been learning a lot on this university. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'm going to hop off now, but you can always email me after I send that over. Happy Manufacturing Month. Bye, everyone. Thank you.